Good afternoon or good evening if you live in Holland or Europe. I hope everyone is well and good and that nobody has problems with the corona and is healthy. Today, like the title of this stream, we're going to talk about this new chronograph that Invicta will release this year. At least I think, because you can buy it now on drop.com. They also have some nice glycine watches there, and also from other brands. But this is the first time that they have like a release from an Invicta. So on drop.com you can like pre-order some limited or special editions from brands. Yes. And this is like an early release or pre-order you can do on this chronograph. But so that is what one thing I want to talk about. The other thing is the Invicta 9053. I mentioned it earlier in other videos because that one is really now a hot watch because it is really cheap. It is the Pro Diver homage to the Rolex, the first Rolex. It's a really hot watch because it's cheap and it's looking very nice. It's well made. So that's the other watch I want to show. Can everybody hear me? And is the sound fine? Also, like I mentioned in the chat, if you want also to have like a chat on this stream, you can add me at Skype. Let me see. I didn't open Skype. No. But if you add me, if you click the link in the description, you can add me with Skype, and you can also be in the stream, and you can we can have a chat, and you can maybe show some of your watches if you like. So that's possible. As you can see about that watch I mentioned, the Invicta 1960. This is not an homage. This is a reissue. I think it's the first reissue that Invicta is doing of one of their watches. They made this watch in the 60s, so this is a reissue of one of their watches. I have to search on Google because you can find pictures of the original. I think Houdinki sold it like some years ago for around $2,000-3,000 dollar. Let me look it up. Yes, it's this one. So this is the original. Oh. So this is the original Invicta made in the 60s. As you can see, rosé gold, and also on the dial that blue and red, like on their reissue watch you can buy on drop.com. at least you cannot buy it, you will pre-order it. They will deliver it around November this year. So you have to wait a half, like 6 months or so before you get it. I think it's an yes. If you want like the big Invictas. Oh yes. Before I will go further, I wear today my Venom chronograph. My Venom Reserve chronograph. This is a limited edition. It's not a blue label, but an amazing piece, as you can see. Really amazing piece. I like the matte black dial in combination with the blue bezel. It's really amazing, and also the finishing on this watch. I like it. But if you today, this talk is not about those Invictas. This is like a more delicate. Yes, and a more delicate watch. It's 40 millimeters. The original is 36, so it's really small. This one is a little bit bigger. It have domed sapphire, and domed glass is like when you have like the watch. As example, this one. That it will be like not flat. This is a vintage Invicta, also from the 60s. Similar to the one you see on the screen. This one has plexiglass. There's like just plastic. But on the new one they put sapphire with an air coating. So when you have problems with light, it will not reflect because of the coating. I think that's just nice they do that. Because sometimes if you have like also with flame fusion, but also on some of the sapphire, the watches they have with sapphire, you have like problems with the light. You know, it would reflect too much. But with that coating, it won't reflect anymore. And sometimes they put like an air coating on the top of the glass and under the glass. So you have a double air coating, and then it will look like if you don't have glass on your watch. I think that's also amazing. But when you have a scratch on the top, it will scratch the air coating, and you will really see that. So that's the downside of an air coating. Let me see where I was. If you have questions, you can feel free to ask something. But it is like from the same period as those watches I have. I have two of them. Yes. So the first one I showed you already. It's the same pushers. It have the same movement. The Landeron 48. This one is from metal, so just stainless steel. The one they made originally, there was 18 karat rosé gold, like this one. Also 18 karat rosé gold. You can see the stamp on the back. I don't know if you can read it. But very similar to the reissue they made. What is drop? I don't know if you missed it, but drop is from the US. Is from America. That is a website. You can they selling a lot of different kind of stuff, but also watches. And normally sell like this one a pre-order, so you can be the first to have a special watch. They also sell like the watches from the sister company Glycine. From the Pilot watches, and they have like a lot of different color combinations they sell there that you will normally not see in the shops. So if you want to have something special, you can look at there. Yes? Oh yeah, and then they have like in with the white dial with brown leather strap, and the black dial with black strap. I think I prefer the whites most, because that is like the original. But what do you think, black or red? I have a question. Do you think you will wear something like this? It's 40 millimeters. Like I told you, it's sapphire crystal, and it's made of bronze, so it's a little bit more heavy. It's a little bit more heavy than when you have like normal metal or titanium that's very light. Maybe because of the size. I think most Invicta fans are like for 50 millimeters plus, right? Reds? Which one? With the black dial, you mean? This one? Ah. But it's an interesting. It's also an interesting piece because, like I told, it's the first time Invicta do a reissue of the watches. They exist a really long time. Invicta is, like you can see on some of the watches, from 1837. So within some years they will be 200 years old. And in those 200 years they made a lot of watches. And when Ayola became the CEO in the 90s, since then he did never a reissue of a watch from before. So this is the first time they do such thing. And they made the last years, they made like homages to Rolex and to other brands like Seiko. They do a lot of homages, but they don't make like reissues, like to bring older Invictas back to now, to 2020. And this is the first time they do such thing. And that is, I think, special, because maybe they will do it in the future. If a lot of people like such watches, like this one, like this chronograph, maybe they will do like more in the future. Some people know I'm also have like a website and an Instagram that is called Vintage Invicta, and I collect also the vintage the vintage timepieces they made. So I have like Invictas from 100 years ago, 90 years ago, 80 years ago. So if a lot of people like such older pieces, a little bit bigger, because this one is 40 millimeters and the original was 36, they can do that with other timepieces they made in the past, and bring them again back to life. And I think that's a really interesting way they go. Okay. Yes, I think this is for now about the Invicta 1960s. I mentioned already like the Invicta 1953. It's really now an hype on Instagram and on social media. You have like a lot of YouTube videos now also on the internet about this watch, because there's really a big run on this one, because a lot of people like it, because it's like the style of the Tudor. A Tudor is like a sister brand that is owned by Rolex. So Rolex is the owner of Tudor. They make bots their own watches with their own style, sometimes similar. But this 1953 is similar to like a modern Tudor. But this is an homage to the first Rolex Submariner. Let me see if I can find a picture of the first Rolex. I think this one. Let me see if I can get a bigger picture. Nee, no. Even kijken. Let me see. No, it's not that one. You can see the dial. This is the original Rolex Submariner. You can see this one is very old. It's from the 50s. So you can see the patina and you can see the bezel is worked out. But this is the original. And Invicta made an homage to this watch with their 1953. And that is this watch. I think it's really nice. Clean dial. A lot of people like the Pro Divers. The Pro Divers are really amazing watches. I own also a Pro Diver. This is the Invicta Millennium Edition. This one is from 2000 with an 80 karat white gold bezel and with a Swiss movement inside. It's also Swiss made, so it's made in Switzerland. Amazing watch. But also I ordered also the 1953, so the coming months it will come and I can do like a review about it, because this is a little bit different in style. The normal Pro Diver have like those crown protectors, and the 1953 doesn't have that. Also, the bezel is a little bit different, as you can see on the picture of the Invicta 1953. And the bracelet is, you can see here the links are brushed and the middle links are polished. So it's so you have brushed and polished links on the normal Pro Divers. But those links on the 1953 are all brushed. So that gives like a classic feel of this watch. And why I'm talking about the 1953, because it's also a watch that that go back in time. And Invicta is now Invicta released in 2020 this 1953. It looks like it really looks like a classic Rolex watch, a classic watch. They released the chronograph this year. Also a classic looking watch. So there's another direction than like the bigger Invictas, like the Joker and the Spider-Man and the Star Wars and all those watches that I also like. The 9053 is not an Omega. Oh, hey Atje. How are you? The 9053 is an homage. Homage to the Rolex. The first Rolex. You missed some talk about their new release, the chronograph they made. They will release this year, at least in November 2020. And now I'm talking about the 9053. So the 9053 is an homage to the first Rolex that is made in 1953. And Invicta made an homage to it. Let me see if I have more. Yes, some months ago I did also like I'm also very active on a Dutch watch forum. That's not interesting for English people because it's Dutch, but I also contacted like Invicta Europe if they can order like the 9053. So yes. Like around, I think around 200 people here in Holland bought it because of that. What I did on that forum. I think that's very nice that a lot of people like this watch. It is a really nice style. It is clean. It is also a very good size, 40 millimeters. So for not everyone like the big watches. So if Invicta can just focus only like on the people that like the big watches, but they don't do that only. They also try to get more people, not only the big guys that like the big watches, but also just people that don't like to wear such big watches. So for such people, a Pro Diver is really amazing, and I think you can have like a lot of watch for you have a lot of watch for not that much money. Like this 9053 is 100 euro, so that's not much money. And you have a lot of watch for it. Let me see. I told already that I will do maybe a short stream today. If you have like some questions, I can answer them. Or what do you want me to do? I can show you some watches of my collection, but we can also have a chat, but I'm not sure if somebody wants to do that right now. last week I showed some people I know this watch, and they were really amazed. Oh, my camera is doing strange. Okay, it's back. I showed some people this watch. And a lot of people were amazed about how thin it is. If you wear this watch, some people think it is like a smartwatch. So it's really funny when you wear this. It's really thin. It's almost if you don't have anything on your wrist. I think they don't make this one anymore. And also, I'm not sure if they are planning like to make in the future this tin collection. But I think it's a really amazing watch. If I'm right, somebody wants this one from me. Maybe I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it, and I will send it to him. Because I would just want to look for something different. I think I want to go to search for a Magnum. I never tried an Invicta Magnum, and I want to try my first Magnum. I will first look for an automatic because I'm really that guy that like mechanical movements. But if I can't find a Magnum for a good price, I will go for for a quartz. Yes, there's documentation about it. The last months I contacted like some museums that are in Switzerland, and they sent me like some documentaries about Invicta and their history, and also about the change from owner. And they sent also some paperwork about older models that Invicta made. So it's really interesting, and I'm also now working. I'm also now busy with to write about the documentary that they sent me. So so yes, there is documentary about their history and about some of the watches they made. But they had like they have now a big catalog. In the past they had also a big catalog. They made a lot of different watches, so it's really difficult to know all the different models and all the different colors and all the different materials they used, because they don't only make like 80 karat or 16 karat or 12. They use like gold. They make fully golden watches or massive golden watches, but they make them like in 80 karat, 16 karat, 40 karat, 12 karat, 8 karat golds. They did how do you say it in English? Just with a layer of gold. They also did watches with a layer of gold on it, so not massive gold watches. They have like steel, stainless steel watches. Yes, and they also made watches from silver. But then I'm only talking about the material they use. But they have also a lot of different movement they use in the watches from different companies, like the chronographs. They used in some of their vintage watches they used Landeron, but they also used from the company ETA chronographs. They use it also in some of the modern Invictas, but also Values and yes, those two. I think those two are the most important. So the Values and the Landeron. But that's for chronographs. But if you have like the normal watches, so not the chronographs, they used ETA, AS, Peugeots, and so a lot of different, more movements from different companies, and also different. They use just a lot of different movements, and yes. What do you mean with documentary movie? No, there's no video about Invicta's. There's no video about their history or so. But maybe, if I have the time, I could make maybe a video about their history. I think that will be very nice. Like I told you, I own a lot of different vintage Invictas. I think now I own around 40 or so, 40 vintage Invictas. So that is really a lot. 40 different Invictas. I think I have more vintage Invictas than the modern. Modern I have around 15. But it's also because the modern I sell more, and the I almost not sell the vintage Invictas. I like the modern, like to try a lot of different Invictas. Like to buy a modern Invicta. I had like some months ago the Aquila Prestige. That's like the big homage to the Nautilus from Patek Philippe. A really amazing watch. Also really well. The finishing is really good. Great watch for the money. But I just wanted to try it, and so I had it like 3 months. And after that, I just sold it. like now with the tin reserve, I just have it for 1 year. Now I want to try an Magnum. I don't have Corona. This is also a new one I have. This is an electronic Invicta. Also very interesting movement. If we have it about if we're talking about movements, inside this watch is an electronic movement. That is not a quartz. Because a quartz is working with the hertz of a quartz crystal. So they put a quartz crystal inside a quartz watch. That is keeping the time. So, but this one doesn't have a quartz crystal. This one have transistors inside. You can see also the difference because a quartz watch has the like the typical tick, yeah, you know, tick, 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 and this one is a sweeping hand, the seconds. Like a normal mechanical movement that also have sweeping hands. You can see how smooth it's going. That's also very interesting that I could find something like this. I think it's really rare because it's the only one I found on the internet. It's called the Invicta Electronic, and on the 6 you can see Swiss Sonic. So very interesting. I think it would be nice if they, I don't know if there is still a factory that makes like those electronic watches, like that, with those movements. But it would be interesting if Invicta will do like in their modern Invicta's movement like that, because I really like those smooth hands, like the second hands, that is the sweeping hands. I really like that. Yes, I know. I got a lot. Yes. But I like to have like a. I think I'm also the only guy in this world that have like a collection like that. If we are talking about the vintage Invictas, I think nobody have like such collection, because I've really a lot of different Invictas. Like if we're talking about only the vintage, I like a lot of different complications. I have chronographs, I have triple dates, I have like divers, I have dress watches. The watch I showed you, the Swiss Sonic, the electronic watch I have from different materials, silver, gold, metal. I have different dials. I have military watches. I have different pocket watches. Also very complicated movements like the repeaters. When you look, but those are in pocket watches. So in the pocket Invicta watches, the vintage one. A repeater is also a very interesting movement, but very expensive. If you want to buy today a repeater on your for a repeater wristwatch, you can pay sometimes around $100,000. So yes, it's insane. I think that's insane. 100,000 for a watch. But vintage you can find sometimes for some $1,000 or less. You can find sometimes around 1,000 or 2,000 a repeater. It's also a lot of money, but if you compare it to like modern watches with repeater, it's like inexpensive. What do you like most of? What do you like most about Invicta? When we are talking about the history, or do you think you're not really interesting about history and about the their or yes, maybe you're not really. Are you interested in their history? I can always tell you about. I think I really like to go in. I really like to read, and also I have a lot of books about watches, and also I find a lot of information on the internet, and I really like that. And what I think that's a pity that Invicta have also a lot of history that I'm just now telling, but you can. It's really difficult to find it sometimes. You can find like a brief history about their history, but if you want to go in depth and to know more about it, it's really difficult to find more about the history. I think Invicta have now on the website invictawatch.com a brief history about their history, but no, they don't have like an they don't have a lot. I'm also some people know that I'm now also writing a book about Invicta. So I can also tell that here on the stream. I'm also writing something, but just as hobby. And maybe I want to go. Maybe I want to do in the future. I want to do an crowdfunding or something like that, and make it like a real book with nice pictures about modern and vintage watches, and you find a lot of different. You find a book about a lot of information of their watches, the movements they used, the other companies they worked with, some stories. I've also collected some really nice stories about their vintage watches, but also maybe some modern stories. You have a lot of watches that has also a story with them. Maybe the first watch somebody has bought, and maybe there's a special story with it. I think you know what I mean. But that is something I want to write about, and to make a book. Yes, a book, and to write a book about that. But that is not something that I will do like within a week or so. That takes like months or maybe more. I'm already like doing like this for a year, and I have like pages. No. I have pages with information about Invictas, and I have a lot of pictures, and I have some people that will help me to edit those pictures. So yes, maybe you will see that in the future. You want to know more about the company? Just because a lot of people downplay the company, I want to know more about the history. To more legitimize about the bigger watches now. I think they make those big watches, especially because in the 80s, Invicta just stopped with existing. In the 80s, before Aeola took over, it just stopped because they had like delicate watches, and people want something bigger and more quartz, and too much other companies, so they just stopped with existing. So Aeola took over, and he wants like he just looked to the market. What want people? and from around 2000 he just see that a lot of people want bigger and bold and colorful and sometimes extreme designs. But you see now also, like I told you, that with the Invicta 1953 and with the 1960, that Invicta want to do also like classic and do like smaller and like more just a classic watch. So they want to try that because they see that a lot of people want it. So they try it, and like with the 53, there's a big run on that watch. If you want the 1953, I think you cannot get it anywhere. Maybe you can. I am not sure. Maybe if you have like an Invicta shop near, you can try it if they have it. But I think they don't have it because there's a big run on it. So that's why they make like the big watches, because they see that in around 2000 that a lot of people want bigger, and they just keep making bigger because around 2000 to between 2000 and 2010 they make like watches between 42, 46, like this. Also a very nice watch, mother of pearl. Also a very nice, you cannot see it maybe that well, hand winding movement. A seagull, a Chinese hand winding movement, but it is well made. In the last stream I talked about that watch, but that is made between 2000 and 2010. And that was the size they were used, I think, because I cannot find in documentary that they make like 50 plus millimeters watches in 2000, between 2000 and 2010. And from 2010 they just make like the bigger, collections, like the Sea Hunter and the Venom and those models, because they see that people want it. And I think from now on they also see that people want like the classic watches, and I think they will also go in that market. But about that downplaying the company, I see that also on the internet. A lot of people, when you're talking about Invicta, they post like the reaction is like posting a picture of one of their extremer models, like before, as example, like the Joker or something like that. Because I think a lot of people don't like the Invictas, like the Joker or some of the superhero watches. I can maybe tell that not all of those watches are my cup of tea, but I like the bigger watches. But I think it's not everyone's cup of tea, or cup of coffee, is it? But I will thank you for watching, and if you have a question, I can answer it. But I think I will end the stream. Anyway, I want to thank everyone that is watching, and also for the questions and for the response. I hope I will try to do like every Sunday a stream, As you can maybe hear, English is not my first language, and I will try to improve it. But it's not my first language. You can see it also on my first videos about a lot of watches. I did them in Dutch, but I like to attract a lot of more people, and I think a lot of more people are like interesting in such in older Invictas, but also in like the content of the modern Invictas that I can make. So I try to do in English. So anyway, I want to thank everyone and take care. And I see you later. Bye bye.